In a modern DevOps world, who gets the keys to production? Should developers have access to production? Short answer, no. Long answer? Hey, I'm Will Button from DevOps for Developers, where I teach you how to build, grow, and scale your application using DevOps principles to build the skills that you need to succeed as a developer. So we can probably all agree that developers shouldn't have access to production, just as a general rule. But then we meet with reality, and reality brings a whole new set of circumstances that are very difficult to overcome. Now, if you're in a regulated industry where you're controlled by HIPAA or PCI type requirements, you may not get a choice in this. But a lot of my clients are startups, early stage startups. And in that case, a lot of the tools that you would need to allow developers to function in their job without accessing production don't actually exist yet. And it's actually going to cripple that business, potentially to the point of not succeeding, to try and build those tools up front. So how do we balance all of this out? I think we have to treat it on a case-by-case scenario and work over time towards minimizing the number of people and the level of access that they have in production. That just makes good business sense, right? That's just protecting your customers to minimize that exposure. Until you're able to do that, though, you really don't have a choice, or you don't have a lot of choices in how you manage your production access. And I'm not going to try to shame anyone for doing what they need to do to make their business survive. We just have to act in our own best effort, and act in what's in the best interest of our company and our customers. Part of that starts right up front with the adage of hire slow and fire fast. And that means surrounding yourself with good people that do their job well and that you can trust with that level of production access. It also may mean that only certain people have production access. You may restrict that ability to your senior developers while your junior developers are still learning the skills that they need or getting the level of confidence that they need to be able to access production. And that's not to fault them, and say, oh, you're inferior or you're incompetent. It's just that mistakes happen, right? It's easy for anyone, whether you're a senior engineer or a junior engineer, to make a mistake. And if you do so in production, it can have, some pretty devastating consequences with it. So by minimizing that access, you're just putting the capabilities in the hands of those most likely to do the best job. If your ultimate goal, though, is to prevent developers from having access to production, it requires a lot of infrastructure in place to do that. For example, all developers who are on call, which I think all developers should be on call, are going to need to see production logs. So now you've got to have a log shipping system built that can get the logs from the production servers to a location where developers can access those. You also need to see, especially during incident management, you may need to see what the memory and CPU utilization of a server is. So you've got to have a monitoring solution in place. And you're going to need the ability to restart production services as well. Sometimes that's just the fastest path to resolving an incident. But in order to restart them, you either need access to the services on the production server, or you need another solution in place so that you can remotely restart those services, whether that's through your CI/CD system or through some type of chat ops system that has the access and the capabilities of doing that. To put all of that infrastructure in place, you have two options. You can either build it or buy it. And if you want to know my thoughts on whether you should build or buy, check out the video that I'll link up above here, because I covered third-party SaaS applications and the pros and cons of building your own or using a third-party application. Another way you can handle this is to make sure that only the developers who are currently on call or the engineers who are currently on call have production access. So you'll need some type of on-call rotation and then some way of assigning those privileges to those users and then removing the privileges from them once they're no longer on call. Again, that's another solution that you either have to use a third-party solution for or build your own solution around. And when I say build your own solution, early on as you first start down this path, building your own solution may just be a written set of steps that everyone agrees to follow. You don't automatically have to go out and write code and build a service to implement something, I actually recommend doing it manually first to make sure that the process works the way you think it's going to and work out all of the bugs in the process itself before you start trying to implement an automated solution to solve that problem. You can also implement a solution of just a little bit of a finer grained approach as to what resources in production can be accessed. For example, your general engineering team may have access to the production services or the production servers for the purposes of monitoring those servers or restarting services, but they only have limited access to databases, which databases is another place where access can get really, really tricky. As the applications we build get more and more complex, a lot of times the behaviors or the bugs that we're trying to troubleshoot to resolve those issues are dependent on data that's specific to a particular user who's using your application. And if that data is stored in a database, you need to be able to get that so that you can reproduce a scenario and try and create a solution for that problem. So now we're back to having database access, and one of the things you can do there is read-only access to the database, and also if there's different levels of data that you have. For example, engineers could have access to the user database, but only a restricted set of people get access to the financials database where you store your financial transactions and your purchase history and different things like that. And finally, as you wrap all of this up and you start putting all of these solutions into place, remember to include auditing in that as well. Because especially if you're in a regulated industry like PCI or HIPAA, you want to be able to produce an audit sheet showing who accessed what resources, when they accessed them, and if possible, what they did while they were in there. And again, this is not a solution for malicious users. This is just essentially covering your own ass, showing what you did in there, and in the event that something happens, accidentally or whatever the case may be, you have a written record of the actions that took place, so you can get to the real root cause of what really happened and turn it into a learning experience for everyone on your team. Because outages and incidents are going to happen, and the best thing you can do with those is not to turn that into a blame environment, but turn it into a learning environment so that everyone feels comfortable and can learn from it, and you grow together as a team. So, TLDR, should developers have access? Probably not. In reality, do we need it? Yeah, we do, until we get the tools in place that make it possible for us to do our jobs as engineers without that level of access required. If you liked the video, be sure and click the like button down below. Leave me any comments that you have. I'd love to hear them. And be sure and subscribe to my channel so that you can be notified when I release new videos each week.